Hi, I'm Charles with Handicap. The story begins as a man named Tamaki is being stabbed repeatedly. The girl stabbing him sounds like a psychopath as she calls out his name. Her knife begins to glow and Tamaki loses his life. Soon after, Tamaki is shocked to see that he is somehow still alive as he wakes up to find some kind of green monster talking to him. It gives him the name Gabaru and it force feeds him some giant disgusting bug. Gabaru is still too tired to do anything, so he falls back asleep. When he wakes up the next day, Gabaru is surrounded by what he calls a bunch of ugly green babies. He then realizes that he is one of them. This leads him to conclude that he had died, and he was then reborn as a helpless little goblin. 3 days later, Gabaru determines that goblins mature much faster than humans, as he has grown a lot. Gabaru becomes excited when he sees that he has a voice again, and he is very agile. He decides not to overthink things, and he just becomes grateful to have a second chance at life. Gabaru vows to survive the best he can with his new life, and he makes it to day 4. The man that's been feeding them informs all the newborn goblins that they will have to get their own food after this last meal. They all feast on the bugs, and Ro is the first of them to venture outside. Just like before, this world has one sun and a blue sky, but it has some pretty ugly birds. A ton of plants he has never seen before make it clear that Gabaru is in a new world. The goblins are able to speak, so Gabaru teams up with Gobkichi. Gobkichi is the biggest of the goblin kids, and Gabaru teamed up with him, specifically because he will be most useful when helping him hunt. The two of them work together as Gobkichi chases a unicorn bunny, and Gabaru finishes it off. Gobkichi tries to eat without Gabaru, so Gabaru beats him and makes sure that he knows that they're supposed to share. After demonstrating the nature of their relationship to Gobkichi, Gabaru tries to see if he can use the rabbit's horn as a weapon. Just then, he gets a strange vision that says Gabaru obtained the small creature's horn. Gabaru has no clue what that was, but he moves on as Gobkichi is starving. Gobkichi is overwhelmed with emotion as he eats. He cries and thanks Gabaru for helping him get food. Gabaru would just like for him to eat or cry, but not both. On the 5th day, the two hunt a rabbit again, but this time Gabaru uses the horn as a weapon and determines that it's very useful. Gabaru removes another horn and he once again sees the vision. He ignores it so they can eat, but he then has another vision. This time Gabaru hears a voice and it tells him that he learned the ability called Escape. Seeing it another time has confirmed something he suspected. Gabaru then explains to us that in his old world, he was born with the extremely rare ESP ability called Absorption. This allowed him to eat pretty much anything, and he would have a chance of gaining the traits of whatever he ate. Luckily, it looks like he still has this ability, but sadly it seems like any other abilities he had in his past life have been reset. As Gabaru amazes Gobkichi by hunting a rabbit, Gabaru thinks about how he's actually extremely lucky that out of all his abilities, Absorption was the one he kept. This is because in this world, there are a ton of monsters lurking around with incredible powers. On day 6, some girl goblin named Gobme is amazed to hear that our boys have been eating horned rabbits. Gabaru didn't think it was a big deal, but Gobme points out that someone just lost their life after being gored by one of those rabbits. She knows that Gabaru is the one in charge, and she admires him for being smart, cool, and strong. Gobkichi wonders what she thinks about him, but she just thinks he is ordinary. Gabaru offers to let her come on their next hunt, and she agrees. The next day though, it ends up raining, so they postpone the hunt for the day after. Gabaru decides to check the group storage to see if he can make a new weapon. He returns with materials to make a weapon, but he cannot forget what else he saw. In the storage, Gabaru found a group of captive human women. The reason why is pretty obvious, but Gabaru would rather not think about it. The elder that watches them is named Gobji, and he is the man responsible for giving Gabaru his very low effort name. The man is impressed with Gabaru and explains that he might level up faster than the others. Gabaru doesn't understand what he means by levels, so the old geezer tells him to tap his head. Gabaru does, and the voice reveals that Gabaru is currently level 86. Gobji explains that once he reaches level 100, Gabaru will be able to evolve into a more advanced life form. Gobji doubts that he will be able to though, since it's pretty rare. It turns out that goblins age very quickly, so this old geezer is just 20 years old. Gobji explains that the others will be returning soon, so Gabaru will get to see what an evolved hobgoblin looks like. The old goblin lets out a maniacal laugh as he wonders what kind of prey they will be bringing back this time. On day 8, the guys go hunting, and Gobme joins them. Gabmi is in charge of backup, while Gabiru fights at middle range, and Gabkichi is their forward. Their 3-goblin formation works like a charm, and they're able to hunt larger monsters. The food is delicious, so Gabmi tears up, as she has only been eating nothing but fruit. When Gabiru eats, he gains several traits from the snake, including venom resistance and something called Evil Eye. This is way more than he got from the other animals, so it's clear that this snake was on a whole other level. The others have no clue what he is talking about, and Gabkichi wants to eat the head of the snake too. Unfortunately, he can't since it's poisonous, and the others would die if they ate it. Gabiru is getting used to things now, so he explains that it doesn't matter how ugly he is. He is determined to survive in this world in his second life. Days 9 and 10 were more of the same hunting, but on day 11 they made the mistake of trying to go into a cave. Their teamwork shines once again though, as Gabiru has Gabkichi protect them with the shield, so he can use Evil Eye on the attacking bats. This stuns them so they can win the fight. They feast on the bats, and this gives Gabiru echolocation, along with a couple other bat traits. They feast as always, but we see that some other goblins starve as they watch them. That night, some of the other goblins surround Gabiru as he sleeps, but the clever goblin always has his search ability active. This allows him to sense that the others are trying to attack him, so Gabiru beats up all 6 of them. One of them is hurt more than the others, so Gabiru realizes that he might not have adjusted his venom correctly since he was in a rush. He plans to teach the rest of them a lesson, but Gabmi is even more upset. She starts choking one of them out, so Gabiru tries to calm her down. On day 13, our group takes on a much bigger monster. Gabkichi gets knocked back, so the clever Gabmi disarms the orc. Gabiru breaks its leg and tells the others that he will take it from there, so they watch as Gabiru slaughters it. Feasting on the orc grants Gabiru the ability to use orc language, libido, and something called Detect Analyze. Gabiru is still thinking about when the others attacked him, so after his friends have had their fill of food, Gabiru decides to bring the rest back so everyone else can eat too. The others are skeptical at first, but Gabiru assures them that it's okay. They all thank Gabiru and begin eating good food for the first time. Gabiru stands over them as they eat, and he thinks about how he never would have even considered helping out the helpless in his old world. It's obvious that his appearance changed since coming to this new world, but Gabiru wonders if something else has changed about him as well. As Gabiru sleeps, he has another vision. It mentions something about how his level values have been exceeded, and he has met all the special conditions. We see that it says something about evolving, but Gabiru is too tired to read any of it, so he just swipes yes and goes back to sleep. One last message reads that Gabiru has received the blessing of the Grand God of Demise and Origin. The next morning, Gabiru finds that he looks a lot more like he did in his old life. A look over at Gabkichi reveals that he has evolved as well. Gabmi is in awe of her friends, as she points out that they're a lot bigger and a lot cooler now. Gabji is stunned that they both ranked up already, since it hasn't even been a month since they were born. Gabkichi wants to test out his new strength, so Gabiru assumes that he wants to go hunting. Surprisingly though, Gabkichi wants to test it by fighting Gabiru, and Gabiru actually really likes the idea. The 2 beefed up hobgoblins fight outside, and show that they are much better fighters now. Gabkichi is a bit too slow though, so Gabiru ends up winning the fight easily. Gabkichi is amazed by how strong Gabiru is, but Gabiru explains that Gabkichi hasn't beat when it comes to pure power. Just then, Gabiru senses that trouble is approaching, and he surprises Gabmi when he knows that she is hiding nearby. He reminds her about the crossbow they made the day before, and he instructs her to go get it. We then see what the danger is as a pack of wolves viciously hunt down some rabbits. An orc runs off as it's terrified of them, but it's no use as the wolves easily destroy it as well. Gabiru determines that they are the perfect target to test their evolved strength, so he has Gabmi start off by shooting one of them with an arrow. Gabiru and Gabkichi then jump in to start smacking the wolves around. Gabiru reveals that he used his venom on Gabmi's arrows, and it has allowed them to easily impair the leader of the wolves. Without their leader, the wolves were uncoordinated. Their teamwork was lacking, so Gabiru and his group were able to make quick work of them. One last wolf remains, but it eventually dies as well. Gabiru determines that it's the leader, so he eats it and it gives him some military leadership abilities. Gabiru gives more food to the others, but informs them that they will have to start catching the same amount of prey that they are provided. They fear that they won't be able to do it, so they beg Gabiru to teach them how to hunt. Gabiru agrees to show them, and they're all even more grateful when he says that he will teach them how to make weapons as well. Gabiru says that it's not a big deal as they are all comrades, and they all begin to cheer his name. Gabiru isn't sure why, but in this moment he feels like he can see the path that he will be taking in this new world. He will eat non-stop to become stronger. He will then lead his comrades to achieve his real goal that puts a smile on his face. 4 days later, Gabiru laments how his comrades still have a lot to learn. They train hard, and Gabiru is shocked when he accidentally walks in on Gabmi. On day 17, all the human women that were captive took their own life, and Gabiru had a quiet memorial for them with Gabji. We then move on to day 24, and Gabiru is training the other goblins. In the meantime, he had also been eating every promising enemy he could find, and learned a lot of new abilities. Just then, another group of goblins begins approaching. Gabiru prepares to protect everyone against them, but Gabji stops him and explains that they are their raiders. Gabiru is then shocked to hear that they are also the fathers of Gabiru's generation of goblins. The raiders have captured another group of human women, and the evil goblins are glad since their last batch took their own lives. It turns out that goblin DNA is so strong that when they mate with other species, it still results in goblin children. Gabiru can understand the instinct to reproduce, but that doesn't mean he's okay with what's going on. He requests that he be the one to look after the human women, but this just upsets the raiders. Gabiru's generation of goblins is ready to stand up for him, but this just begins to divide the two groups. Just then, 2 goblin girls arrive to casually tell the two sides to stop getting themselves into a civil war. They are Hubsado and the mage Habse. These genius girls come up with the brilliant idea to have the leaders of both generations fight, and the winner decides what the village will do from now on. The raider wants to teach Gabiru a lesson, and Gabiru agrees to fight as well. The fight ends very quickly as Gabiru uses some kind of mysterious string. The others can't understand how he did it, so Gabiru explains that it just comes out of his body. He then thinks about how it's an ability he learned that allows him to produce spider silk, and he learned it after eating a demon spider. The girls are amazed that someone like him was born while they were gone, and Gabiru announces his new official status as leader of the village. He asks if anyone has a problem with that, but no one decides to stand up against him. Gabiru then tells the humans that he ordered everyone to keep their hands off of them. He won't do anything either, and they will find the time to send them back to a human village. The girls wonder if they will have to do anything, and we learn that Gabiru wasn't being completely selfless with his actions. He wants the knowledge of the humans. Gabiru asks them some questions, and learns that these girls were part of a traveling business when the goblins attacked them. All the men were slaughtered, and these 5 girls were the only survivors. On day 28, Gabiru is surprised to see that the girls seem happy. He realizes that they haven't gotten over everything, they're just having a positive attitude since it will make things easier. Gabiru cooked for them, hoping that it would help. Among the girls are 2 sisters that are cooks as well as tailors. The one with glasses is an alchemist, and the absent-minded girl is an appraiser and a smith. As for the redhead, she is a rookie warrior, so he decides to have her join their training later. Gabiru then trained everyone hard and insulted them when they got tired. For the next few days, he focused on group exercises instead of hunting, and he beat into them the new rules he set for the group. Day 31 was rainy, so Gabiru and Gabkichi did some really intense sparring as everyone watched in amazement. That night, Gabiru sensed that a group of goblins were about to break his rule regarding the human women. Gabiru sliced right through one of the goblins and restrained the others. He reminds them of the rules he set and punishes one of them for talking back to him. Gabiru apologizes to the women, and the redhead cries in his arms. The other goblins arrive, so Gabiru instructs Gabkichi to take the restrained goblins outside. He also has Gabmi gather the other goblins so they can watch what he's about to do. Outside, Gabiru sends a message to the others by using these guys as an example. He beats them relentlessly and makes sure that everyone really understands their village rules. Everyone gets the message loud and clear, so Gabiru dismisses them. Gabiru stopped just short of ending their lives, which meant that Hobkin, who got the worst of the punishment, passed away the next morning. On day 32, Gabiru's team uses their amazing teamwork once again to take down a Trihorn horse. It was pretty tough, but this just meant that he also received a ton of new abilities. Tri-Burst is one of them, and it amazingly allows him to deal 3 blows with just 1 strike. That night, the redhead goes to sleep in Gabiru's bed, and he realizes that the incident from the night before must have traumatized her. Gabiru comforts her and allows her to spend the night with him. However, when he wakes up, Gabiru finds that Gobmi joined them as well. That day, they also find that the female goblin named Gabi evolved into a hobgoblin as well. Overall, things have been going pretty smoothly. Gobmi runs the ranged unit, and Gobchi is in charge of their armed forces. Hobsato handles the mobility-oriented force, and Gabi has taken over rear support, which focuses on doing chores. Hobse would act as the captain of their mage force, but right now she is the only mage in their village. For the rest of this day, Gabiru leaves the training to the captains, so he could head deep into the forest to hunt a variety of prey. Gabiru tries out some demise magic, and is shocked to see just how powerful it is, as he easily destroys one of the powerful Trihorns with one attack. Gabiru only realized after this that the magic made him overconfident as he went into the northern forest. There he finds a strange area with a ton of blood, and he remembers something that Gobchi told all the goblins. Gobchi warned them to never go into the northern forest for any reason. Inside there is a terrifying crimson monster called the Red Bear. This is where Gabiru finds himself now, and he sees that this monster easily tore through a Trihorn. The Trihorn's armor was incredibly difficult for them to pierce earlier, but it was nothing for this bear. Just then, the Red Bear appears, and Gabiru acknowledges that a normal person would probably try to run away. Gabiru is not a normal person though. He wants to fight it, beat it, and eat it to see what kind of abilities he will get. Gabiru plans to use every weapon in his arsenal, so he starts off by using Phase 1 Demise magic. Back at the village, Gabi becomes concerned as she hasn't seen Gabiru in a while. The others haven't seen him either, so this just makes her more worried. Back with Gabiru, he is shocked when the Red Bear sacrifices his right arm to defend against his Demise spell. The bear unleashes a flurry of attacks, and Gabiru can tell that the refined skill armor he received from the Trihorn won't be able to protect him. Gabiru must go on the offensive, so he goes to attack the bear's head. He is once again shocked though when his weapon isn't able to pierce its skull, and the bear sends him flying. Gabiru covers the bear in string, but it breaks free and shockingly uses a crazy strong fire breath attack. The forest is covered in fire, and Gabiru must heal his wounds. The attack was very concerning, since Gabiru had never seen or even heard of a fire-breathing bear in his past life. This is a very dangerous opponent, so Gabiru realizes that he will just have to be willing to take some damage to win. Gabiru moves in for another attack and protects himself from the fire breath. The beast is pretty tough on the outside, but Gabiru cleverly uses the fire breath attack against the bear, and he pierces it right through its mouth. Gabiru is pleased with himself, but he is shocked to find that it wasn't enough. The ferocious bear knocks him back, and Gabiru does his best to limit the damage he takes. Gabiru still took a lot of damage from the incredibly powerful attack, so he concedes that this round was a draw. His blade is still inside the bear's mouth, so at least it won't be able to use its fire breath anymore. This crazy strong bear still shows no sign of collapsing, but Gabiru is just one attack away from losing his life. Gabiru is at a huge disadvantage, but this guy is crazy as he proclaims that it will just make his meal taste even better. Gabiru goes in for more fighting and manages to deal some damage. It's not enough, so he tells the bear that he wants to eat him already, and he moves in for another attack, but we see that he loses an arm. On day 34, Gabiru has finally won the crazy battle, but he barely survived. Gabiru finally gets to eat the bear, and he receives a ton of powerful traits. Among them are heavy damage and overpowering strength. Gabiru passes out soon after, but we once again see that he has exceeded his level values and met all conditions. This now allows him to evolve into a rare ogre species. His conscience is fading away, so Gabiru simply selects yes without reading. On day 35, Gabiru continues to eat the bear and gains even more incredibly powerful traits. He reaches for his knife, which seems much smaller than before, and Gabiru is shocked to realize that he has become an ogre. Gabiru returns to the village, but everyone is terrified of him, and they fear that they are under attack. They prepare to run as they wonder why the ogre is smiling at them, and they wish that Gabiru was there to save them. Luckily, Gobmi recognizes him, but instead of being surprised by his evolution, she is mad at him for being gone for so long. She just ends up hurting herself, but she still scolds Gabiru. She is upset that he lost his arm, but the others are all amazed that he took down the Red Bear. Gobji is most shocked of all, as he points out that Gabiru was able to defeat the Master of the Northern Woods just 1 month after he was born. Everyone had questions for him, but Gabiru was just glad that he survived and was able to make it to his new home in his new world. Sometime later, everyone is still amazed by Gabiru's evolution, as he has gotten much bigger and stronger looking. Gabiru goes to check on the human women, but he is followed closely by Gabmi and the redhead for some reason. As expected, the humans are terrified of him, but he manages to calm them down by explaining that it's him. Gabmi though seems upset about something as she pinches his leg. The blacksmith is disappointed to see that he wrecked the axe that she made him, but reveals that she has made her knife using a special spirit stone. Gabiru praises her, but finds that the other girls have started to pinch him even harder. The twins need help with their cooking duties, so Gabiru explains that he will assign a few goblins to help them out. Gabiru is impressed that they have gotten used to being around goblins so quickly, so he tells them that they would make great wives. He wonders if they want to be his wives, and they call him a sly dog. Gabiru is pleased by their smile, but once again the redhead and Gabmi get more upset. Gabiru then finds that the alchemist has made poison. Originally it was for self-defense, but now that there is a goblin she can trust like Gabiru, she has no use for it. Gabiru picks her up and admires her smile as well, but he can instantly feel the murderous intent coming from the other girls. Gabiru spent all his time cheering up the girls, but now his spirit is exhausted. On day 36, Gabiru realized that he can no longer train with the others. He has become so powerful that regular goblins were ending up in critical condition from even his lightest punches. Even Gabkichi's armor couldn't withstand them. As Gabiru heals a near-dead goblin, he wonders what's wrong with Gabkichi. Gabkichi says it's nothing as he goes to hunt, but Gabiru can tell that something's wrong. Aside from that, Gabiru has started to notice that Hapsado and Gabmi have started hunting together. The red-headed woman is training by herself, and Gabi is continuing her hobby of mining for spirit stones. As for Gabiru, we see that he can still use his missing arm like it's slime, thanks to the fact that he ate a slime before. Gabiru wonders if Gabkichi will be okay, but Hapsi points out that it depends on how much effort Gabkichi puts in. The two argue as Gabiru wishes Hapsi would give him back his book, and he thinks about how he was finally able to have a relaxing day. On day 37, Gabi panics as she found some little creature in really bad shape. Gabiru does his best to heal her, but she's losing too much blood, so he decides that he will have to get some blood-producing medicine from the alchemist. Luckily it works, so they explain who they are to the thing they call a carbuncle. The carbuncle introduces herself as Litana and reveals that she was attacked by humans. The gem on her head is a high-class material, so its price is said to be as high as 1 billion gold. Litana asks that they lend her their power and begs them to get rid of the humans that attacked her. Gabiru is familiar with the history of the carbuncles. Their master named Velvet was a famous legendary magician, and he created them to watch over his secret treasure den. Litana explains that when she was attacked, her core was broken, so her lifespan was shortened. In the secret treasure room lies legendary class items that Velvet collected throughout his entire life. Litana explains that her master hates humans. He would prefer that the goblins take all the treasure rather than the adventurer humans. They can have everything, so Gabiru declares that they will go. The blacksmith girl gives him his new dagger, but he tells the frightened girls not to worry, as he won't blatantly eliminate the humans. His job is just to get them to leave, but warns that he might have to use some force if they don't listen. They then go through the hole Gabi made, as it's the way to the treasure room. Gabiru decides to try to persuade the humans to leave, so he tells the others to hide. He finds the adventurers who are searching for the treasure room, but they think that he is just another monster that they need to defeat. They attack him but are quickly shocked when he is able to detect the presence of their invisible assassin. Gabiru explains to them that this is someone's house, and what they are doing is robbery and murder. It's clear that they don't have any guilt either, so Gabiru determines that they are beyond saving. The stupid humans are just shocked that an ogre can speak English so well, and Gabiru says that luckily for them, he also has a good heart. They refuse to listen as they attack him instead, but Gabiru just easily dodges it all and once again tells them to leave. They don't listen, so Gabiru analyzes the situation. The humans have 3 in their backline that are using a lot of high-class magic items. Unfortunately for them, it's pretty clear to Gabiru that they are relying too much on level enhancement to increase their fighting strength. This doesn't do much for them since their fighting technique itself is pitiful, and Gabiru is easily able to beat them up. Just then, one mage celebrates as he thinks he just blew Gabiru's head off. They are of course shocked though when it becomes clear that his attack just angered Gabiru. He has allowed them to live up to this point, but Gabiru is done being nice. The humans wet themselves as they realize that their level 3 magic spell did nothing. Gabiru declares that the time for being nice is over. He signals to the others to attack, and they spring into action. Gabru takes out his blade and tells the humans to regret not leaving when he gave him the chance. Afterwards, Gabru reveals that they eliminated the adventurers and ate them. This gives Gabru a bunch of their traits, including Assassin, High Wizard, and Enchanter. That isn't all though, as there were some pretty high level adventurers among them, and they had some pretty good loot. There is a rare ring, an item storage bag with a bunch of items in it, so Gabru just eats those too. Among other things, this allows Gabru to summon a cheat item box that can store an incredible amount of items. They then head to the treasure room where Latana thanks them. She explains that her master Velvet is great with spirits, which is why a ton of spirit stones can be mined there. She wishes good health to Gabru as they say goodbye, and she vanishes. It's a pretty sad moment, so Gabru just eats the gem from her head that she left behind. The slick Gabkichi wonders if Gabi is okay, and she says that she is fine. They have a moment of silence for Latana, and afterwards Gabru decides that they will take all the treasure and split it amongst themselves. Gabru marvels at his item box because it still has a lot of space even after shoving all the treasure into it. Gabru doesn't like the idea of just leaving Velvet's body there, so he cremates it. Surprisingly, this leaves some kind of gauntlet. Gabru tries it on and is stunned when this thing attaches itself to him and becomes his new arm. The others are amazed to see it, and Gabru shows what it can do as it feels just like his own arm. When they leave, Gabru decides to have a party to celebrate the successful mission. On day 38, Gabru appraises all the loot they got with the blacksmith and finds that everything is insanely rare and powerful. On day 39, Gabru explains that he gave the 10 hobgoblins in their group some magical items. As for himself, Gabru chose to take the Vermilion Spear. That, along with 2 other items he chose, means that he now has 3 legendary class artifacts. Legendary class is second only to Phantasm class in item ranks, and it is said that the holder can rule entire countries with just one of them. Later that day, they go hunt for ingredients for some bear soup, and Gabru's glad to see how strong everyone is getting. On day 40, Gabru decided to have a tournament to see who would be the leader of the hobgoblins, not including himself. He also established a mercenary group. On day 41, Gabru goes in search of monsters he has never seen before. The first one he found was a golden spider that dropped some valuable looking items. Eating them allows him to now make gold string that he is sure he will be able to make accessories out of. The next animal was some red deer, but eating just one of them didn't give him any traits. Further exploring leads Gabru to a great tree. He explains that in this world there exists a species called dryads. According to Gabji, they tempt males from other intelligent species and use them as their own nutrition. Dryads are only females, and they are so beautiful that men are unable to hold back after looking at them. The reason Gabru is explaining this is because one of these dryads has appeared before him. She admires Gabru's huge muscles and tells him that she would just like to talk. Gabru struggles to control himself in the face of her charm, but he must, otherwise she will use him as nutrition. He has to avoid that at all costs, and he can't let his guard down. Gabru decides that he must use the ability he has never used before called Libido. After taking 5 hours to eat the Dryad, Gabru earns a trait called Dryad's Blessing. The Dryad is still alive somehow, so she tells Gabru to return soon, but he just says that he will if he feels like it. Afterwards, Gabru takes a bath in the lake and is soon surrounded by lizard men. He declares that today he is invincible, so Gabru makes quick work of them, and even takes out another monster for good measure. On day 42, Gabru finds that 2 goblins have an aptitude for magic. They immediately become part of Habse's platoon, but her devious-looking smile worries Gabru. Later that day, Gabru learns how to enchant his weapon, but this seems to upset the blacksmith girl. On day 43, Gami is angry at our boy, but no one explains to him why, and they just tell him to use his head. The redhead is just as angry, and the twin cooks seem upset as well, as they try to feed him poison food. The alchemist is surprised that someone as perceptive as Gabru hasn't noticed, and reveals that the girls are upset because they are jealous. They know that he had a date with someone, and he is shocked to hear that he has kiss marks on his neck. Gabru had no idea, and he curses the Dryad for doing it on purpose. Gabru tries to think about his next course of action, but he is shocked when the alchemist reveals that she feels the same way and gives him a kiss. She hopes that he accepts her feelings, but Gabru didn't expect this at all from her. He thinks about how it does make him happy, but Gami arrives furious. She wants Gabru to treat her the same way, and all the human girls arrive to say the same thing. Outside the room, Gabi explains that Gabru has sealed it off so they can take care of some work, and Gabru earns a lot more traits. Sometime later, Gabiru senses that someone is approaching and finds that it's a group of noble elves. Humans are about to attack them to get their treasure, so they have come to ask for the goblins' help. This elf guy has a bad attitude, but they are offering to give them an entire couple months of food for their village. Gabji thinks it's a good offer, but Gabiru surprisingly refuses. He doesn't care about the situation, he just wants them to be more sincere when asking for help. The guy prepares to attack Gabiru, but Gabiru strikes fear into their very souls with one terrifying glare. Gabiru then warns him to tell his hidden archers to lower their bows. They try to shoot him instead, but they have no chance of hurting Gabiru. The elf has them stop attacking, and Gabiru explains that he's rejecting his offer because he's simply not in a good mood. However, the goblins live in this forest as well. If the humans are going to cause problems, then he wouldn't be against teaming up. Gabiru then amazes everyone as he uses his legendary weapon to threaten all the elves at once. Gabiru doesn't even really understand fully how it works, but if he stabs something with it, he's able to produce a limitless amount of spears that can extend 100 meters out. The elves run away terrified, so Gabiru hopes he doesn't see them again for a while. On day 45, Gabiru hunts down 20 gray slime. Eating their cores gives him a bunch of abilities, including fluid regeneration and auto-replication. Gabiru gives auto-replication a try and finds that he can create a tiny version of himself from his blood. He can even see himself from this thing, which means that they have linked senses. This gives our boy Gabiru a brilliant idea. On day 46, he has the girls make some clothing with his blood in the lining. This way, the clothes can serve as a transmitter in case they are ever in danger. On day 47, one of Gabiru's mini scouts finds that the elves didn't learn their lesson as they have returned. This time, Gabiru just lets out a loud roar from within the cave, and the elves are terrified as they can't even move. Gabiru doesn't even say a word when he emerges and simply captures them. The elf leader explains that Gabiru's lack of respect wounded his pride, and this has earned Gabiru more than one death. The other elves, however, apologize for not being able to stop their boss. Gabiru has come to a decision, but it's a harsh one. Their boss can already be considered dead, but the rest of them will have a chance to survive. Gabiru will have them face the goblins in a mock fight, and the elves that win will live. Gabiru's choice is a fair one, as he declares that if they want to survive, then they will have to fight with everything they have. In the end, out of the 23 elves, 6 of them were defeated. The 6 were all men, but Gabiru admits to himself that he tweaked the fights because he doesn't like seeing women get eliminated. Gabiru then snacks on the losers, and he gets a lot more abilities. Gabiru then reveals to the survivors that they are now prisoners. They thought they would be set free, but Gabiru reminds them that they still try to eliminate the goblins. Gabji thinks that the elf prisoners will be a lot of fun, but Gabiru reminds him that there are rules against touching prisoners. Gabji vows to listen to his leader, but still begs as he is desperate. Gabiru then goes to give the final punishment to the leader of the elf unit. On day 48, we see that Gabkichi reaches level 100. On day 49, everyone is amazed to see that Gabkichi has evolved into a special variant. His dark red color is the result of a blessing from the demigod of flame, and his ironheart skin is a blessing from the demigod of war. Gabkichi explains that Gabiru hasn't had someone to spar with since he became an ogre, and Gabkichi was worried that he would never catch up to him. Gabkichi is different now though, so they spar outside. Gabiru still dominates the fight, but Gabkichi is surprisingly able to hold his own. Gabiru eventually wins the fight, but the match proved to him that Gabkichi really is his rival. That night, Gabiru was exhausted, and he was met by a strange figure. This thing apologizes for some reason, and gives Gabiru a gift as it's the least it can do. Gabiru wakes up, but has no clue what just happened. On day 51, Gabiru wonders if Gabkichi inspired the others, because they have 4 new hobgoblins. One is even suited to be a mage, and another will be a cleric. The cleric's name is Gabji, and he promises to heal as many people as possible. Hobse has evolved as well, growing into the Lord family as a half spell lord. Spell lords don't usually have markings like the one on her arms, and Gabiru notices that they look like the ones on his body. Hobse is overflowing with mana, so she wants to test her strength outside. She demonstrates her immense power with an incredible fire attack, and explains that she can do another 20 of those at least. This is pretty incredible, but what's more surprising is that she is only a half spell lord right now, and she will likely evolve into a full spell lord next time. Gabiru gives her some new gear to match her evolution, and she tells the jealous Habsado that she will catch up soon enough. Gabru realizes that evolutions have been happening pretty frequently, and he suspects that he is the reason why. A goblin's environment during their first month of life has a major effect on their rate of growth. It's pretty great to have everyone getting stronger, but Gabru admits that not everyone in the village is so lucky. On day 52, the older generation of goblins expressed their displeasure. They have been trying their best to hang in there, but they are being left behind by all the young goblins. They have decided to leave the village, and they are shocked when Gabru decides not to end their lives for betraying him. Gabru explains that they aren't stealing anything, so it's their choice if they want to leave. What's even more surprising is that Gabru gives them a parting gift. It's a magical knife made of mithril with an incredibly sharp edge. On day 53, Gabru finds a human that had his life taken by an orc. There was no hope left for him, but after Gabru ate him, he found that he had a very interesting ability. He hopes that using it well will be a way to honor the guy. This ability is called Monster Tamer. That night, Gabru is happier than ever when the alchemist reveals that she was able to make booze. On day 54, Gabru announces that the previous generation of goblins has left the village, and he offers to allow anyone else to join them. No one else wants to leave, so they have a toast. On day 55, the genius Gabru worked on producing earrings with his blood in them so they could serve as communication devices. On day 56, Gabru found that they worked perfectly, so he made enough for everyone. On day 57, Gabi took down a Trihorn, and Gabru tested out his Monster Tamer ability that he got from the human. It worked perfectly, and the Trihorn became their first familiar. On day 55, we find that Gabru now also has a Grey Bear familiar. The head of a black wolf pack became his pet and bodyguard for the human women. On day 59, Gabru experienced an incredible shock. The red-headed girl, who was really weak at first, has grown into a powerful warrior. While they are eating, Gabru gets surprised when she finds that she just got a new job. Moments later, she shows off her new hunting prowess, and Gabru explains that her new job is Shadow Soldier. She now needs to periodically eat monsters or she will die. However, it results in some astonishing growth. Later, Gabru is told that humans have been attacking goblins roaming the forest, so he realizes that it's nearly time for the war between them and the humans. On day 60, Gabru senses that kobolds are being chased by something that he can't even detect with his search ability. When the kobolds make it to the cave, they find that the pursuers are magically animated skeletons. Gabmi's archers try to shoot them down, but their arrows do nothing to them. There are an incredible amount of skeletons, so Gabkichi fears that things are going to get really bad. Gabru's search ability allows him to see one large signal behind all the skeletons, which is likely the one thing creating them. The others try to fight off the skeletons, and one of Hapsado's attacks makes Gabru realize something. Cutting the skeletons doesn't work, but smashing them apart is incredibly effective. Everyone puts down their weapons, and they start bashing all their opponents. There are still too many of these things, so Gabru decides that he will have to put an end to the battle. He begins a countdown in his head as he makes his way through the skeleton army. He ends up finishing 3 seconds early, but he manages to crush the monster that was creating all the skeletons. Eating this thing gives him the ability to summon lower undead and high-tier equipment materialization, among other things. Afterwards, the kobolds apologize for their mistake. They accidentally dug into Velvet's treasury, which the goblins invaded earlier, and they awakened its guardian, the Greater Skeleton. In a last-ditch effort to survive, they ran to the cave that belongs to Gabru, who has become known as the terrifying Black Ogre. These kobolds now call Gabru their lord, but Gabru points out that he has eliminated plenty of their kind. They are incredibly grateful for him saving them though, and they understand that the strong devouring the weak is just natural law. They owe their lives to him, so they declare that what happens to them from now on is totally up to Gabru. Gabru understands and has their wounds looked at by their cleric. Gabru then takes a look around at everyone in his cave. He has no idea how it happened, but he has gathered a pretty interesting crowd. On day 61, Gabru goes hunting with Gabkichi, and they catch sight of 12 armed human soldiers. They follow them, and Gabru uses his ability to eavesdrop on them. He learns that the humans are trying to kidnap the daughter of the elvish chief. Furthermore, one of the elves tipped them off. The chief's daughter returns from a festival, so the humans begin their attack. They eliminate a bunch of her guards and capture her. Gabru would feel bad just letting her be taken away, so he rescues the girl and takes the humans prisoner. On day 62, he learned that the human army would make their move in 20 days. Gabru ate all 12 humans and earned a ton of abilities. When the elf girl wakes up, she is terrified of Gabru. He notices that she has wings, which is uncommon for elves. Gabru tries to calm her down, but she freaks out as she assumes that he's going to do terrible things to her. She eventually relaxes a bit after drinking some calming tea, but she gets upset when Gabru reveals that he couldn't save her guards. She blames him for just watching them get attacked, but he explains that the human and elf war is none of his business. He reveals that there is a traitor among the elves, so she should be more upset about that. She sobs uncontrollably, so Gabru just tells her to get some rest before they take her home. That night, Gabru has to remind the old guy to keep his hands to himself. On day 63, they take the elf home. She explains that wings are something only high elves have, but they usually hide them inside their bodies. They are not meant to be shown to others, but she is so inexperienced with them that they pop out sometimes. When they arrive at the elf village, Gabru detects that 25 archers are aiming right at him with mithril arrowheads. Luckily, the chief's daughter explains that the ogre saved her life. The chief thanks them for saving his daughter, but Gabru explains that he didn't do it out of goodwill. He wants a reward and thinks about how he's letting the chief display what his kind means to him. So this will give Gabru a chance to get a grasp on the chief's judgment. Gabru's reward is something called a fail knot. It's a family treasure and magical item. The daughter is shocked that he would give this away, but the chief explains that it's a small price to pay for her safety. Gabru is pleased with this, so in return he offers to give the elves information about the human army's movements. The two groups are now on good terms, and the elves gave the goblins a ton of mithril equipment. The chief wonders if they know anything about a group of their elite fighters that have gone missing, but Gabru just pretends that he has no information on them. The chief even gives Gabru some good liquor as a gift, so Gabru vows to help them whenever they need. That night, Gabru can't believe how delicious their alcohol is. On day 64, Gabru is shocked to find that Gobmi has ranked up into a Dhampir variant. On top of that, they have 8 new hobgoblins. Gobmi now has some new abilities as well. The god of ice has given her the ability to create and manipulate large amounts of ice. Her evil eyes ability can charm enemies into fighting amongst themselves. Gabru seems to recognize her appearance, but he isn't sure why. Gabi has also evolved, and she is now a half Earth Lord. Earth Lords have the ability to manipulate the ground. She can also make her body stronger, and can use lightning magic to detect gems. As for Habsado, she evolved into a half-bloody lord. They have the ability to control blood and make it into weapons. Also, all these evolved goblins have tattoos for some reason, and they're all in different locations. They say the tattoos give them power, so Gabru hopes to learn more about them. Because of all their evolutions, Gabji decides to give them all new names. We then get a look at a chart which ranks the races in terms of power. Ogres rank 5th, behind the Dhampirs and the Lords. Oguru knows that the elves will turn to them for help when their battle against the humans begins. He determined that they need as many assets as they can get, so he gave out communication earrings to new comrades. The elf girls they have captive refuse to wear them, as it's extremely taboo for elves to decorate their ears. However, Oguru took some time to change their minds. Oguru then had these new comrades join them during training. He then used his summon lower undead ability. He summoned skeletons so they could do some practical sparring. Oguru made some changes and summoned them with some armor. The more armor a skeleton has, the higher quality it tends to be. The elves struggled and lost most of their matches, but Oguru was still pleased as the group is building trust. On day 65, Oguru has learned that if he uses less mana, he's able to create regular skeletons, zombies, and other undead. He wondered what they would taste like, but he found he couldn't eat them. They are good for practicing though, and for gaining experience. They are purified in seconds during the daylight, so not being able to use them during the day is a drag. Oguru's group now has over 100 members. The kobolds are in a pretty low position, so they will have to work harder than everyone else. After a fight, Oguru worries that Gobfu might be eating too much rotten meat, but she thinks it's the best. On day 66, Oguru had Earthy close the exit to the cave where the skeletons were coming out of. He also had the kobolds do some hunting, with the goal of getting more wolf familiars. The kobolds worked faster than he expected, so they were able to collect 20 wolves. On their way home, they encountered a powerful boar, and Earthy destroys it. Later, the forge girl reveals that she upgraded the axe that Oguru damaged while fighting the red bear. The entire thing was modified with an alloy of spirit stone, iron, and mithril. Oguru is impressed, and the smith girl reveals that she was able to upgrade into an elemental smith. On day 67, Ogre Kichi reveals that he has always had a crush on Earthy. Oguru surprisingly already knew, so Ogre Kichi explains that he needs help as he doesn't know what to do. Oguru then comes up with a plan for him. He wants Ogre Kichi to do something that night, and he hopes to hear good news in the morning. That night, Ogre Kichi tells Earthy how he feels, and she seems to take it well. The next morning, Ogre Kichi feels really light on his feet and stronger than ever before during a match against Oguru. Ogre Kichi's managing to land more attacks than usual, but Oguru is glad that things went well for his buddy. It turns out that Earthy talked to Dami about it the day before, so Oguru and Dami set the stage for them. Ogre Kichi has been so strong and full of energy that Oguru had to replace himself with a black skeleton in their sparring match. After training, Oguru's usual group went hunting. They found a lot of insect monsters that he has never seen before, so Oguru gained even more abilities. The most interesting of them was called Exoskeleton. Oguru used it and was shocked to find that he had become like one of those transforming superheroes. This new exoskeleton is extremely durable. It has the ability to repair itself and disperse impacts. It's a little too flashy for Oguru's liking, but Dami thinks it looks cool. Oguru tries to change back to his old clothes, but he just ends up being in his birthday suit. It turns out that his normal clothes were used to create the exoskeleton. It's a shame as he really liked his outfit since it was made from the red bear's pelt. Oguru then finds that this exoskeleton ability is even more amazing as it allows him to register 5 forms. One form used the red bear, so he can register 4 others. Oguru gave it some thought and decided that he wants forms for air and sea battles. So to start, he registers 1 form from the insects so he could sprout wings and fly. It's pretty difficult to control though, so he would need some practice. It's raining pretty hard on day 69, so the redhead wants Oguru to spar with her. She has been making steady progress, so she has been asking for more training lately. Oguru then thinks about how she used to seem like a puppy before, but now she seems more like a grown Doberman. As for the smith girl, she has been meeting with the elves regularly, so they can brainstorm ideas for new weapons. She is working on developing a repeating crossbow, but tests have gone so well that Oguru has asked her to move on to manufacturing them. Oguru then gave her some more materials in the hopes that she could make a new weapon for him. The chef sisters have also received a new title called head chef. Oguru had them try and recreate dishes from his past life, like potato chips. After that, Oguru had a meeting with the alchemist about manufacturing magical items. She reveals an item she created from the black skeleton bones. It's a bone nail that has the ability to freeze whoever struck with it in place. The other girls catch Oguru hugging the alchemist, but he doesn't elaborate on what happens next. On day 70, some elves arrive on behalf of the chief elf. These elves pass by their old comrades on the way in, but Oguru's earrings had a disguise effect that made them appear to be dark elves. The elf kid reveals that the humans are making their move. The elves won't be able to handle them on their own, so they need Oguru's assistance. Price is of no concern to them, as the chief just wants the enemy eliminated completely. However, their contract will be considered void if Oguru retreats. Oguru accepts the job, but explains that they will do it in his terms. Oguru instructs the kid to give the elf chief a bracelet so they can communicate. Information is a crucial weapon, and Oguru already has his blood minis covering the woods. Oguru gathers everyone and declares that it's time to put everything they have been working on to use. Starting on this day, they will become a mercenary company. They are now a professional force of fighters, and everyone likes the idea. Oguru decides that they will be called the Parabellum Mercenary Company. He tells everyone to prepare for battle as it's time for their first job, and they all start chanting Parabellum. On day 71, Oguru's Parabellum Company does their first job. They have a total of 36 members, and with Spellsay Sorcery, their familiars can join them for a total number of 73. They deployed early in the morning based on information gathered by one of Oguru's minis. A barrier surrounds the human army base, but Oguru uses an attribute on his silver arm to destroy it. Once the barrier is down, Earthy uses her earth controlling ability to close off any escape routes for the humans. Dami and Spellsay then take point on a coordinated magical barrage. Oguru summons a horde of skeletons and follows up with some spears for good measure. However, he is impressed to find that all this isn't enough to eliminate the humans. Some lady knight is leading their defense, so Oguru introduces himself with a roar. The humans can tell that the black ogre is controlling the undead, so the lady knight declares that they will strike him down together. The human mage starts the attack, and Oguru is impressed when the lady knight buffs her speed. He commends her ability to assess the situation, and compliments the mana she covers herself in. Even her strategy to gouge his heart out is a good one. However, it's not good enough, as Oguru just pushes her back. Oguru then announces that he likes what he is seeing, so they all get to live as his prisoners. The lady knight refuses to listen, and she just wants to end his life. Oguru compliments her, but she says that if he wants her as his prisoner, then he will have to demonstrate his strength. If she is defeated, then he can do as he wishes. Oguru tells his group to eliminate everyone, except for the lady knight, the sorcerer, the priestess, and the flaming swordswoman. They are to be taken alive, but the rest can be eliminated and eaten. Oguru then explains to us that what happened next was a one-sided slaughter. Dami's charmed evil eyes caused a bunch of human soldiers to fight each other over her, and Ogekichi overpowered others. Blood Sato used her ability to turn blood into weapons, and Earthy followed up with her ability. Ultimately, they were able to defeat the enemy without a single loss. However, the Lady Knight did manage to reach Oguru just once. Her attack is hardly doing any damage to him, but just reaching him was impressive enough. Just then, the human mage prepares an attack and begs for the Lady Knight to get away. Spellsake can tell that the mage's attack is a 5-level spell, and she fears that Oguru might not be able to withstand it. What makes it even worse is that the Lady Knight is sacrificing herself to make sure that Oguru is hit by the magic attack. The human mage apologizes as he can't hold back any longer, and he releases it. However, Oguru declares that he has won, as he does not intend on letting the Lady Knight die. The Lady Knight then watches in amazement as Oguru skillfully creates a magical shield. Spellsake is also in awe of Oguru, as this shield required him to combine 3rd level demise magic, a vacuum shield from his silver arm, and a few other abilities. Oguru had to use quite a bit, but he managed to stop the dragon spell attack. It's a complete victory for Oguru's group, and he declares that taking so many powerful fighters prisoner is a big deal. Oguru has a feast and gains an insane amount of abilities. Afterwards, the elves celebrate the victory. Oguru goes to see the new prisoners, but they're not doing so well. On day 72, Oguru explains that with his earrings in place, the humans couldn't lie or hide things anymore, so they obtained a lot of information. The elder elf requested this information and offered to pay in alcohol, so of course Oguru accepted. Using the item Oguru sent him, Oguru was able to pass on the information he received from the prisoners. This included the hidden routes the humans were using to ambush them next. The humans are planning to use their immense numbers to suppress the elves from different directions. Using this knowledge, Oguru's group went around the routes, laid out some traps, and waited in a trench. The human troops are led by fully armored knights, and there are about 500 of them. On top of that, there is also 100 wizards. Oguru explains that it would be a long hard battle if the elves fought them head on. However, for Oguru and his group, this was pretty much just target practice. Oguru commenced the attack, so his company closed off escape routes and used boulders to drop their numbers. They went from 500 knights to 300 in an instant. Pit traps and arrows dwindled this number down till there were less than 100 knights left. Oguru is then impressed when the commanding knight tells his troops to build a wall with anything they can find. This caused the fight to be at a stalemate, so Oguru sent Ogekichi to fight their commander. The humans of course fought back, but Oguru sent in enough warriors to make sure every knight was eliminated. The only question Oguru has is if Ogekichi will be able to hold himself back. Ogekichi starts destroying the commander, and the commander can tell that everything about Ogekichi is crazy. Oguru credits the commander for fighting back so well, but Ogekichi eventually wins. Just like last time, Oguru has a feast and gains a bunch of abilities. Ogekichi points out that the commander reminded him of Oguru, but Oguru doesn't see it. Just then, Dami comes out of nowhere and reveals that she wants to bear Oguru's child. On day 74, the night prisoners considers being captured alive to be more humiliating than death. Their commander tells them to calm down though, since they have food and a place to sleep, so it's not that bad. The knights point out that he is from a commoner background, so he wouldn't understand, and this whole prisoner thing is a disgrace to nobles like them. Later, Oguru has the commander tell him why the humans are attacking the elves. It turns out that the cause of this whole mess stems from a princess coming down with a rare disease that is fatal in 99% of cases. She is betrothed to a king of another empire, so he decreed that a cure must be found. The humans then found out about the elves' secret medicine made with the blessing of the demigod of the forests. The start of this war all boils down to human greed. Later, Earthy is shocked when something happens during a mining session. Everyone wonders if they have come under attack, but it turns out that the water just created a hot spring. Oguru excitedly tells everyone that it boosts their healing ability and clears any status ailments. Aside from that, it's also great for the skin. Everyone then enjoys all the benefits of their new bath, and Oguru credits Earthy for digging it up. On day 75, Oguru had some concerns, so he thought of a new training strategy using the human prisoners. The idea is to have others work on their leadership skills by running a simulated battle with real soldiers. They give orders to their appropriately outfitted soldiers, and they win if they are able to beat the leader of the opposing group. Oguru himself stands on the sideline and acts as a judge. Examples are Spellsay issuing orders to defensive troops, and Dami ordering archers. Dami and Spellsay are looking pretty strong leadership-wise, but Ogekichi and Bloodsato couldn't get any wins. The humans watching can't even understand what's going on, as it doesn't make sense how goblins are practicing military maneuvers. The commander declares that he's tired of smacking bones around, as he was hoping to fight Oguru head-on. Oguru is amazed by his courage. This guy still wants to challenge him even if all his comrades are losing over and over again, so Oguru develops an appreciation for the guy he calls the Steel Knight. The guy is then shocked when Oguru covers him in mana. Oguru explains that he would crush him if he didn't even the playing field a bit. Oguru releases some of his power, and the knight gets excited when this makes it clear that he's willing to fight. Oguru fights him, but the guy never even really had a chance to win, as Oguru absolutely destroys him. Oguru heals him, and Ogekichi declares that he wants to fight the Steel Knight too. As Oguru watches them fight, he can tell that Ogekichi was also inspired by the Steel Knight's spirit. Later, the guy explains that he came from a land where there are many demi-humans, and this is why it's easier for him to talk to them. The Steel Knight has noticed the wide range of races that Oguru has gathered, and he can tell that he organized them very well. He even begins to wonder if Oguru was sent by divine intervention. The guy then quits being a knight and declares that he wants to fight for Oguru. Oguru accepts, which no longer makes him a prisoner, and he decides to make good use of his talent. Oguru makes the redhead his apprentice and instructs him to teach her unique human combat skills. Later, the elf elder agrees to take the wounded humans off their hands. Oguru would like to know about the secret medicine the humans are after, and the elder reveals that it's actually the medicine he gave Oguru before. The medicine is apparently a pretty big deal, and it can cure just about any illness. Oguru can't believe that the old elf gave him something so precious, but the elder explains that their laws only forbid them from sharing it with humans, not the ogre who saved his daughter. Oguru takes the medicine for the first time, and it gives him a strange feeling. It also results in him receiving a ton of strange healing related abilities. Oguru gives one of the injured humans a drop of his blood, and the guy is shocked as he reveals that not only were his injuries healed, his back pain is gone too. Oguru is stunned as well, as he just now realizes that all this ability gaining stuff is starting to get really crazy. He just completely healed this guy with one drop of blood, so he wonders what would happen with more. This kind of ability is on a whole nother level, so Oguru wonders if he has powered up into some seriously crazy territory. On day 81, Oguru's group prepares for their third clash with the human army. Oguru successfully snipes someone with his spear from 300 meters out, and then uses its ability to produce a limitless number of spears. The battle is over in just 20 minutes after the strike landed. Oguru then uses his slime to get rid of all the corpses. It's not a very pleasant sight, but everyone agrees that Bloodsato has a screw loose, as she seems to be enjoying it. The next day, the elves whisper to each other as Oguru has brought humans with him to see the elder. Oguru assures the humans that the elder is nicer than the other elves, as this proves to be true when he serves them drinks and food. The elder is pleased that Oguru has pushed the human army to the brink, but he does not want the fight to drag on. For that reason, he wants to send his most capable troops into the next battle to help put a decisive end to the war. The elder is paying Oguru, so Oguru allows it. On the way back to the village, the Lady Knight points out that Oguru has her complete devotion, so she would like permission to fulfill her duty as a Knight of the Kingdom. She asks if he would be willing to send a secret elvish medicine to the kingdom to cure the princess. Oguru thinks about how having the kingdom in his debt would be pretty beneficial, but there is a problem. 5 gods are worshipped in this world. They are incredibly powerful, so they tend to be the root of a lot of religious conflict. Oguru has the blessing of the god of demise and origin, so if someone like him provides the medicine, it could lead to even more problems. However, he seems to come up with an idea and tells the knight that he will consider it. Day 83 is the day of the final battle. There are 2,000 human soldiers, and including the elves that have joined them, Oguru's group is numbered at 650. This battle won't be like the others, as they will lose if they rush in. This is also because one of Oguru's blood minis learned something the day before. The humans have sent an order of 8 heroic warriors they call the Rugold Orden. They are considered to be the ultimate fighting force, as all 8 of them have been blessed by the gods. Not only are they strong on their own, they also empower those who fight at their side. This means that the more allies they have, the more dangerous they are. Oguru wasn't even concerned when he learned about them though, and only wondered what they would taste like. It's time for battle, so Oguru summons his skeletons. Dami wonders if that's a good idea since the sun will come out soon, but Oguru explains that he made some tweaks to the skeletons. He then instructs Oregakichi's group to take care of the perimeter because he will be taking his skeletons straight to the center. Oguru initiates the battle, and the humans are shocked by how many skeletons there are. The humans know that they just have to wait it out as the sun will come up soon, and it eventually does. They are relieved as they think they will be able to push them back now, but they are stunned when the skeletons don't disappear. It turns out that Oguru coated the skeletons in slime so they could fight during the day. The skeletons do a good job, but Oguru sends them to help the others as he has decided to finish off the soldiers that are left. As he powers up an incredible attack, Oguru thinks about how the entire army will fall apart when he eliminates the troops at the center. Nearby, one of the Braves makes his approach, but he is annoyed to have to take part in such a boring war. He thinks the troops just need to fight harder, but they point out that they're not strong like him. The Brave arrives to see Oguru powering up, so he realizes that the battle might actually be interesting. The troops are shocked as they watch Oguru gather a bunch of water and blood, and he uses his attack to destroy everyone. The fight has made Oguru hungry, so he begins eating, but he is interrupted by the casual kid who would like for them to fight next. Oguru was told about this person, so he knows that his name is Filippo, the Bone Bug Brave. Filippo doesn't like it when someone he doesn't respect calls him by his title, so he gets really upset. This kid has some crazy eyes, so Oguru realizes that it means he was blessed by the god of demonic insects. The kid is upset with Oguru since he is the reason his vacation has been ruined. Oguru clearly sees that the kid is acting like a brat, but in reality the pressure emanating from his body makes it very clear that the kid can fight. Filippo can tell that Oguru has a blessing, so he wants to know which one it is, but Oguru doesn't say a word. Just then, Filippo reveals that he has some bugs that use a mix of his blessing and necromancy. He tosses them everywhere and explains that he can make the corpses move around. They aren't zombies though, as they can move in the sun, so Oguru determines that the bugs are some kind of parasitic biological weapon. Filippo then declares that there is a big difference between braves and heroes. Heroes are much stronger individually, and the fighters they empower are also much stronger. However, heroes can only empower up to 10 people. Braves, on the other hand, can empower hundreds. Just then, Oguru is shocked when Filippo transforms the corpses into monsters. Filippo has them attack, but Oguru quickly starts tearing them apart. Filippo's impressed as Oguru is able to smash them up like they are nothing, so he decides to take direct control over the monsters. The fight gets more difficult, so Filippo is now impressed by how fast Oguru can heal. Filippo prepares to use something Oguru won't be able to heal from, so he summons a giant centipede. This thing crushes Oguru, so the kid explains that it's his favorite pet. It's also pretty famous, as it was classified as a natural disaster. It's incredibly dangerous as its venom can cause death by organ paralysis with just the tiniest bit of exposure. The kid is then amazed, however, as Oguru has managed to survive for this long. Oguru's group becomes concerned as the venom has clearly started to take effect. No one can help though, as they are surrounded by enemies. Filippo praises his pet as it brings Oguru's lifeless body to him, and he sends it off to finish its other job. Filippo is sure that the fight is over now, so he thinks about dissecting Oguru's body to find out what blessings he had. He looks for someone to help move Oguru's body, but he is shocked when Oguru disappears. Just then, Filippo just barely manages to dodge an attack from Oguru, and he wonders how he managed to survive. Oguru doesn't explain, so the kid assumes that he just used a fake corpse. Filippo's pet is already pretty far away, so he decides that it's time to use his first secret weapon. Filippo would like them to formally introduce themselves first, but Oguru doesn't want them knowing who he is yet. Filippo just introduces himself and explains that he is ranked 7th in the entire country. Oguru interrupts his little introduction with an attack, but the kid mutates and pushes him back. Filippo is upset now since Oguru forced him to use his second secret weapon before he could finish using the first one. The kid then completely transforms, but this just makes him look even more appetizing to Oguru. This is because he thinks that any good meal takes effort. The two begin fighting, but Filippo is shocked that Oguru is able to dodge his attacks while fighting back. This is incredible to him since Oguru hasn't even gone through an epic awakening. Oguru has no clue what that is, and Filippo refuses to tell him since Oguru hasn't been cooperating. That's okay with Oguru though, since he knows he can force the kid to talk. Oguru then explains that he has a bug transformation of his own, but Filippo doesn't believe him. Oguru uses his exoskeleton ability to transform, so Filippo is amazed that he always seems to have something up his sleeve. Oguru meets Filippo in the sky for the fight, and he sends the kid crashing to the ground. Oguru's group finishes up clearing an area, but Dami has a really bad feeling about something. Nearby, Filippo explains that he has had a lot of fun, but it's time to stop. Oguru won't let him get away, but the kid says it's not his choice. He takes off and declares that he's a really fast runner. Oguru chases after him, but he must stop to strike down the carcass that is able to move without Filippo. The kid manages to get away, but Oguru vows to eat him one day. Dami arrives glad to see that Oguru is okay, and he explains that he sent a replica he created on a little mission while he was fighting Filippo. He applied a stealth ability to it, so it sneaks up to someone and tells them not to move an inch. The person it speaks to is the next king of the country and current commander of its royal armed forces. The replicant tells him that they have no desire to continue the war. The commander wonders who he is, but the replicant just tells him to check his armor. The commander is then shocked when the replicant explains that what's in the vial is a secret elvish medicine that will cure the princess. The replicant coldly points out that their troops can now stop sacrificing their lives for nothing. Back with Oguru, he acknowledges that he could have easily eliminated the future king, but he knows that this would have caused the kingdom to send their full force to wipe out the elves. He decided against that in order to avoid an all-out war. Oguru then has Earthy set up a defensive wall so they can get their injured to safety. Nearby, some humans are terrified when they run into Oguru, but he tells them to move along. The battle is over and no one else needs to lose their lives. He then thinks about how there are more important matters that need to be taken care of. That night, we learn that 30 Parabellum members lost their lives in battle. It's a very sad moment as they need to be put to rest properly. In this world, there is a risk that the dead will come back as zombies or ghosts, so they must be cremated. The others get emotional as they offer prayers to the brave warriors that fought hard to the very end. Everyone reacted in different ways, but Oguru didn't feel particularly sad. However, he did feel the need to cling to life as hard as he could, because they couldn't anymore. On day 84, we learned that the recent battle has earned everyone a lot of high quality experience, which led to a lot of new evolutions among Oguru's group. Habji was doing a lot of healing and has evolved into a half Saint Lord. He can now use a unique half Saint Lord ability called Shell Field. It's even durable enough to withstand 20 strikes from Oguru. Habfu has become a ghoul because of her love for spoiled food. She has been eating nothing but zombies, and you are what you eat. She excitedly talks about the guys, and Oguru fears what she might be thinking. Just then, Oguru is startled by Habmi's non-face eyes, so he asks her to keep them closed. She was never good at direct combat, and now she has become a Dodomeki, a race that excels in combat support by using illusory magic. She has some useful abilities, and Oguru is sure that she will one day outperform even him in terms of intel gathering. Things are going so well that even some of their weaker hobgoblins have ranked up to become ogres. This group surprisingly vows to get stronger in honor of those that sacrificed their lives during battle. Oguru is surprised because goblins are egotistical by nature, but these guys are mourning their lost comrades and using that as motivation. The leader of the kobolds has also leveled up to become a warrior kobold. This guy claims to have been granted a ferocious appearance just like Oguru, but Oguru thinks he looks more like a mafia boss that has just discovered cosplay. He has also received a true name and is now called Tsuji. Old Man Gabji explains that true names are special names that individuals of a certain level are granted. If an enemy learns someone's true name, they can cast certain spells like curses on that person. Telling others their true name is a bad idea, and it would be like committing self-unalive. The Cobalt leader decided to share his with Oguru as a sign of his undying loyalty, so Oguru decides to call him Akita from now on. Oguru thinks about what he should do with their prisoners, and ultimately decides to let them go free. Anyone who doesn't have anywhere else to go are allowed to join Oguru's group on a provisional basis. Some prisoners take great offense to this, since they feel like they're a cut above the rest, but being a provisional member would mean that they are lower than a goblin. An argument breaks out as the goblins are insulted by the statement. Oguru acknowledges that the 3 prisoners are stronger than goblins, but he trusts the goblins who have been training there since birth more than some randoms that just showed up recently. Oguru tells the 3 that they can just leave, but they would rather prove themselves. They want to fight the leader of the mercenary group, and if they win, they want control of it. The guy mistakenly thought that Dami was their leader, and they think it's laughable that an ogre like Oguru is actually their leader. Oguru must calm Dami down, and he agrees to humor these guys. Oguru wants to fight 2 of them at once, so they call him Kaki. Everyone is then amazed as they show off their weapons, and the out-of-control Gabji arrives to watch the fight. He explains that they're using orb weapons, and some of the other members might be able to use them as well. Orb weapons give their users a significant boost in power and repair themselves when damaged. Oguru instantly wipes out the attackers and beats up any other challengers. Just then, everyone is shocked as Oguru gets knocked back. This ape-looking dude declares that he's the leader now, but Oguru sends him flying. Oguru explains that the guy did a good job sneaking up on him, so he let him land his attack. Only the half-Dhampir guy remains, but he's nowhere to be found. Oguru eventually finds the guy asking Dami to become his wife. Oguru beats him relentlessly, and he thinks about how him hitting on Dami right in front of him has earned him a worse beating. There are some other powerful looking races among the provisional members, but they're grateful to have been freed from slavery. Oguru gave the Dhampir guy some blood to heal him, but this made the guy pledge his loyalty, and things got awkward. At the end of all this, Oguru's group ended up with 50 more provisional members. The provisional members spar against some of Oguru's undead, and we learn that Oguru put Ogurkichi in charge of training them. That's not all that's going on, as Oguru has found some new smiths to work with the smith girl. The little guys point out that she still has a lot to learn, but they see potential in her. The smith girl doesn't like them very much, but dwarven smithing is top tier in this world. They might even be able to make mithril equipment, so Oguru asked the smith girl to try and make it work. Oguru learned an ability recently called synthesis. He does an experiment with an orb, and it works like a charm. He then used Chaos of the Dead to produce a monster, but it wouldn't listen to his orders and it went wild, so he had to destroy it. He then used synthesis to cook up new abilities. He combined the abilities weakness to sunlight and weakness to light damage to create weakness to sunlight damage, but he regretted it. On day 85, they begin renovating their base. They prioritized the hot spring so they could offer it as a service to their elven allies. On day 86, Oguru used the provisional members to test out synthesized abilities. This way there would be less issues in case of an accidental fatality, but Oguru thinks he might have overdone things. On day 87, the dwarfsmiths give Oguru their finest work. It's a special warhammer, but Oguru couldn't understand their explanation about what makes it special. Things have changed so much since Oguru was born, as he now needs to suppress his presence when walking through the woods, otherwise creatures run away from him. Oguru meets with the Dryad again to pick something up, but the other girls tell him that he will pay dearly when it becomes clear that he was up to no good. On day 88, Oguru announces that they will be planting some crops. What he picked up from the Dryad was a collection of magical seeds for fruits and vegetables. They grow faster than the natural kind, along with tasting better and being more nutritious. On day 89, some provisional recruits returned home. Prisoners of noble birth returned home as well, but Dami brainwashed them first. This means that they now have spies to gather information inside the kingdom and the empire. The human army has begun to withdraw, so the elf elder thanks Oguru for his help. He throws a banquet to celebrate, but Oguru wonders if it was really a good idea for him to be invited. The elder acknowledges that their rules require them to shun anyone outside their village, but Oguru and his people are their friends. The elder explains that his younger brother broke their code to leave the forest a long time ago in search of a link to the outside world. The elder just wanted to ensure that their forest would be a safe place for him to return to, and he has only been able to do that thanks to Oguru. All the elves become emotional, and the celebration continues. Upon returning to their base, Earthy had dug up the last of the spirit stones. As a sign of gratitude to Velvet and the Carbuncle, Oguru decides to eat this last batch of spirit stones. Of course, doing so grants him a bunch of abilities. Afterwards, Oguru got to work on some heavy-duty crafting. He fused the bones of black skeletons together and added some replicant material as an anti-sunlight measure. This allowed him to create what he calls a skeleton centipede. Oguru plans to use it as a vehicle as he wants to take the human girls to a human town. The human girls fear that they are being kicked out, but Oguru just reminds them that he promised to return them home when they first met. Even if they decide to stay, Oguru wants them to head back before making that call. On day 91, the construction of the improved hot spring was complete. The knight can tell that the redhead is distracted while training, and she reveals that she's worried about having to go back to a human town. The knight wants to stay out of it, but he assures her by saying that Oguru doesn't seem to be in any rush to get rid of her. On day 92, the girls collect some stuff to sell in town. In this moment, Oguru realizes that having these girls around to lend him the knowledge that he is lacking is a true blessing. On day 93, a party is held to help everyone get to know each other. The trio from before are some obnoxious drunks, as they say that they will do whatever they want when Oguru goes into town, but they do inform Oguru of something. The kingdom and empire both have disdain for demi-humans, so they will need someone from a noble family to help get them in. The obnoxious red guy offers to help, but Oguru declines. On day 94, Oguru breaks everyone up into 4 groups. Their goal is to gather intel on the outside world, handle any trouble amongst themselves, and try to level up. However, most importantly, Oguru wants them to make sure that none of them die. On day 95, everyone prepares to depart. Everyone shows their quirky personalities, and Oguru tells Ogre Kichi not to run off on his own. With that, all the groups head out. Oguru thinks about how much he has learned living in the forest, but he knows that he must move forward. This is because there is still a lot of powerful prey out in the world, just waiting for him to eat them. On day 102, Oguru and the girls arrive at Garrison City. The people there freak out because they aren't used to seeing an ogre leading a bunch of humans, but the twins explain everything. Oguru then tells the girls that they're supposed to spend the time they spent in the city, deciding if they want to live there again or go with him. The redhead then takes Oguru to the guild, while the other girls sell some goods. Oguru ran into some trouble, but he just made the trouble faint. After registering as an adventurer, the group went shopping. The girls went to look for clothes, but Oguru decided to gather information. He disguises himself as a human and changes into the form that he used to have in his past life. As he walks through the city, he overhears a lot of people talking about him as the tattooed ogre. Ogres seem to have a bad image, so Oguru determines that they won't be able to continue their activities as a mercenary group for the time being. Moments later, some thugs surround Oguru. He takes these fools out and devours them to earn some nice abilities. Oguru notices that they were all wearing matching rings, so he wonders if they're part of a big organization. Nearby, he hears some guy paying a ransom to have a girl freed. The thugs he is talking to demand more money, and Oguru notices that they're wearing the same rings. The guy figures he will have to fight them, and Oguru realizes how bad the situation will get when he hears that the girl he's trying to save is actually a princess. The thugs end up nearly eliminating the guy, but Oguru knocks them out. He also attached his blood clones to them so that he could track them later. The guy is furious that Oguru let the criminals live, but Oguru reminds him that he just saved his life. Oguru leaves his mercenary card with the guy so he can call them if he ever needs help. Oguru shows him his ogre form, but tells the guy not to say a word about what happened. That night, the guy meets with Oguru and reveals that the princess being in the city was supposed to be a secret, but she snuck away from her inn. She was then found and taken by an organization. The guy is then shocked when Oguru reveals that he already knows where their hideout is. They go there and Oguru takes out all the thieves and retrieves the princess. As they burn the hideout down, Oguru says that he found evidence showing that the kidnapping was planned by the princess herself. The guy wants to report this back to the kingdom, but Genki appears out of nowhere to cast a spell on him. He makes the guy think that something really bad will happen if he reveals what really happened here. Instead, he will come up with a story with the princess and go on living a peaceful life. On day 103, Oguru is informed that newborn goblins and hobgoblins have been delivered. Oguru is glad that the next generation has been born, but he still needs to hear the responses from the girls before he leaves the city. When he goes to speak with the girls, they all say that he didn't even need to ask, and they already packed their things to go with Oguru. The chefs still have a lot of recipes to try, and the nerd girl still needs to make the perfect alcoholic drink for Oguru. The redhead and the smith have their reasons for returning as well, so Oguru thanks them. Later, Princess Rubilia introduces herself, and the guy explains that she demanded that they find the ogre who saved her so she could thank him. Rubilia has heard that Oguru leads a mercenary group, so she has a job for him. She wants them to escort her back to the royal capital. Oguru is shocked by her tone, and he wonders if this strange power of hers is similar to charm. Oguru refuses to escort her and points out that she has plenty of guards. Rubilia says that they're all boring, so Oguru angrily explains that they have other things they need to do. Oguru tries to scold her for sneaking away from her inn, but it doesn't work, and it just makes her like him even more. The guy reveals that they will be rewarded with a gold plate for escorting the princess, and the girls insist that Oguru take the job. A gold plate is worth 1 million gold, which is way more than they would get for a normal job. Their obsession with money bothers Oguru, but he's interested in seeing the royal capital, so he takes the job. Afterwards, Oguru admits that he's also excited about the prize money. The princess reveals that she ran away from her guards again, so Oguru scolds the guy. Unfortunately, he explains that the princess is stubborn. This is pretty bad since the guards are probably searching for Rubilia, and if she is found with Oguru, they will probably mistake him as a kidnapper. They go on their journey anyway, and Oguru answers all of Rubilia's questions. He explains that they're riding on a skeleton centipede. Oguru then tells her that some nearby animals are called bullfours. They have good quality meat, and their horns can be sold for a lot of money. The group takes out some of the bullfour, and they have a feast. That isn't all, as they use one of the bullfours to disguise their way too obvious skeleton centipede as a carriage. The redhead takes out a rabbit and snacks on it. She gains some abilities, and Oguru explains that her power doesn't come out unless she does that. The guy gets concerned when the princess gets really careless, and Oguru must save her. It turns out that he has to save her a lot, including when she sneaks up on the chefs who are holding knives. It's pretty bad, so he scolds her. On day 104, they find a nest of turtle snakes. They work together to capture these animals, and they prepare for another meal. The princess apologizes to the chefs for her behavior and offers to help them make the meal. Everyone then enjoys the grilled turtle snakes. As their journey continues, Oguru notices that Rubilia is extremely curious. Even if she knows that something is really dangerous, she can't help but investigate. Oguru takes an interest in the night, so he allows them to join their morning training. The princess wants to join as well, but she is told that the training is not just some game. She insists though, so Oguru allows her to join them. Oguru trains the knight until he faints, and he is impressed by the princess as she seriously practices her sword swings. That night, they plan their route for the next day. The path along a cliff is the shortest, but it's also the most dangerous. It's dangerous because of the fillets eagles that reside there. They are the strongest race around the mountain path. They are extremely fast, and they also secrete poison from their claws. Even worse, the boss class Jade Eagle has the blessing power, and it will hunt them down if they encounter one. Just then, everyone is shocked when Oguru announces that they will hunt down the Jade Eagle. The hunt goes down the next day, and the captured eagles become their breakfast. Moments later, Oguru realizes that things are going to get really bad, so he tells the others to stay where they are. Everyone gets really worried, so Oguru apologizes because he decided a long time ago to eat as many first encountered enemies as he can. Later, everyone gets even more worried as Oguru has been fighting the beast for over an hour. Dami is sure that Oguru is fine, and she explains that he once defeated a red bear after an all-night battle. The red guy points out that this eagle is far more dangerous, and he says that they need to think about running away after Oguru gets eliminated. Dami refuses to run and simply declares that she will stay with Oguru no matter what happens. Just then, things become quiet and everyone fears that Oguru has lost his life when they see his arm on the ground. Oguru is alive but in really bad shape, so the newest members determine that defeating the eagle is impossible and they need to run. The situation looks really bad, but Oguru decides that he has to get serious. Everyone is shocked when he eats his own arm and thanks the eagle for helping him train. He acknowledges its strength and puts on his armor. Oguru strangles the giant bird with his threads so it can no longer escape. With just one attack, Oguru sends the eagle crashing to the ground. He thought it would die instantly, but the blessed have strong vitality. Just then, Oguru discovers a stone buried beneath the jade eagle's heart. The girls explain that it's extremely rare and they tell Oguru not to eat it. They want to use it for something because it's a material for making powerful weapons. The group then feasts on cooked jade eagle and Oguru gets even more abilities. Oguru uses the bird for another exoskeleton slot and he gets some feathered wings. Just then the princess demands to know why Oguru eats all the monsters he encounters. Oguru had been asked that question several times in his previous life, and his answer is still the same. He eats it because he killed it, and he kills for the sake of living. If someone dies because of something he was involved with, he eats it as much as he can to make up for it. Everyone he told this to in his previous life was shocked, but the princess just falls silent. He wonders what she is thinking, and they continue on their journey. On day 109, our group arrives at a village, and all the villagers are terrified of Oguru. In villages that are only humans, Oguru has heard that they hate demi-humans. However, Rubilia shows her family crest to calm everyone down. The group is then welcomed to the village and taken to their most popular spot, the large waterfall. After spending the day at a hot spring, the village has a celebration. To thank them for their hospitality, Oguru shares his alcohol with the villagers. One villager gets a little too handsy, so he feels Dami's wrath. To liven things up a bit, Oguru decides to have a drinking competition, and the winner will receive 4 silver plates as a reward. Unfortunately for the villagers, ogres can't get drunk, so they all pass out trying to beat Oguru. Oguru snacks on some fish and gains some abilities. On day 110 they leave the village, and Oguru notices that the twins look a bit pale. They explain that it's because they cooked for so many people during the festival, so Oguru offers to do the cooking for the day so they can rest. On day 111, everyone is shocked, and they tell Oguru to stop the centipede. It turns out that the twins are pregnant with Oguru's children. Oguru immediately contacts Gobji because he doesn't know what to do. The twins' stomachs got big instantly, so Oguru wonders if it would be okay to send them back to the village. Unfortunately, Gobji explains that they won't make it in time. Ogre children steal nutrition from their mother's belly and are born immediately. If the twins were ogres, then it would be fine, but human bodies are just too small. If they don't get enough nutrition, the mother's bellies might tear. There's no time to make it back to the village, so Oguru decides to search for a nearby place for them to give birth. The twins are in a lot of pain, but they tell Oguru not to worry, and they promise to give birth to his children soon. Moments later though, everyone becomes worried when they see that the twins are starting to look too thin. They are becoming very weak, and the alchemist's life potion doesn't work on them. They desperately need something with higher nutritional content to sustain them. Just then, Oguru comes up with an idea. He knows that it will be difficult for the twins, but there aren't many options. Oguru tears off his own arm and tells them to eat his flesh. Everyone is shocked, but this is the only way to supply them with the energy they need. There's no time to cook it, so they will have to eat it raw. The twins refuse to let Oguru go through the pain, but the others point out that he can just regenerate. The girls still refuse, so Oguru bites his own flesh and feeds it to them himself. He declares that they can hate him if they want afterwards, but he refuses to let them and their children pass away. After feeding them, Oguru finds a suitable cave. There are some bears in it, but Oguru has the 3 lords eliminate them. Oguru uses some of his abilities to make beds, but the girls are getting so big that they look like they are going to pop. Oguru uses his healing ability with some anesthesia to ease their pain, but he doesn't know how long it will last. Eventually one of the bellies stops growing, and we see that Oguru is using one of his blood minis to transmit what's going on to Seiji. Oguru says that what he's about to do will be useful for their base, so he wants Seiji to watch closely. He puts one of the twins to sleep and uses an ability to create a scalpel. He reminds himself to keep healing and sedating, and Oguru begins the procedure. A while later, we see that the twins gave birth to a baby boy and a baby girl. Thanks to Oguru's blood and abilities, the entire procedure was a success, and the twins' wounds have already healed. Oguru is glad that he didn't lose the twins, and proud to be a father. The princess holds one, and Ruli says that the babies look like monkeys, but they're still cute. Just then, Gabji requests to see the babies, as he assumes that they might be ogre mixed blood. This is confirmed as they both have horns, so Gabji explains that Oguru can remove the horns while they're still babies. According to Gabji, when a female human gives birth to a demi-human's child, it will be the same race as the father. However, in 1 in a million cases, a special race called mixed blood is born. They possess great power, but both races will see them as unpleasant. The best they will be able to do is live as harmful monsters. Oguru appreciates all the knowledge Gabji has given him, but this time Oguru has made his own decision. If his children end up becoming monsters because everyone hates them, then he will still shower them with love. Seiji assures Oguru that everyone in Parabellum feels the same way. The other strange thing about his children is that they have orbs on their bodies. Oguru assumes that it's because he has a lot of orbs and dragon spheres inside his body. They decide to name the daughter Aro and the son Argento. The twins, whose names are Felicia and Alma, are doing well, and Oguru thanks them for bearing his children. He wants to live together with them as family from now on, and they feel the same way. On day 112, Oguru wants to find a strong monster that he has never seen before, so he goes exploring alone. After a while, he encounters a beast that he decides to call a white stag. Oguru can tell that it's a boss class just by looking at it, and even if he goes all out, there's only a 30% chance that he would win. Oguru hasn't felt the fear of death in a really long time, but this just gets him excited. Oguru transforms, but he is confused when the beast doesn't attack him. Just then, the monster sheds its antlers and runs off. Oguru thinks about eating them to gain some awesome abilities, but his intuition tells him that he should give them to his children instead. After some more exploring, Oguru encounters a joint force consisting of humans and demi-humans. They're in a battle, and Oguru can tell that they have a lot of experience. As he watches, it becomes pretty clear that they are the strongest group Oguru has ever seen in this world. However, their target is a boss monster, and it's putting up a good fight. The group has taken out several beasts, but the boss prepares to end the fight with his most powerful magic attack. Just then, this immensely powerful beast gets blown to bits by Oguru and his new arm weapon. Oguru was a bit nervous to use that attack, but he wanted to save the group so he could fight them himself. The problem now though is that he isn't sure if he can fit the giant monster in his storage. It will fit, so he turns his attention to the group. One human stands to protect them, and this makes Oguru think about something. He wonders if this guy would have been able to beat the boss if he didn't destroy it. Oguru isn't sure why, but this guy is emitting something that makes him sure that he would have won against the boss. Just then, Oguru commends the guy on doing a good job during the fight. Oguru has decided not to eat them, and instead just pretends that he was sent by someone to defeat the boss monster. He requests that they let him take the monster, and in return he offers to heal their wounds. They agree, so Oguru takes the monster corpse, and they part ways. The guy is amazed that a creature like Oguru exists. He could tell that Oguru hasn't reached epic level yet, but for some reason he can't move at all. Some girl wonders if it's because of his injuries, but it's not. It's actually out of fear. The guy has an ability called Voice of Death, and it showed him the worst outcome of what could have happened. If they tried to fight Oguru, then they all would have lost their lives. After eating the boss and gaining more abilities, Oguru eventually returns to the cave. His children can walk already, and they welcome Oguru home, so Oguru calls them geniuses. Oguru feeds them the stag's horn, and he can tell that their abilities improve significantly. Oguru and the redhead try it too, but Oguru is shocked when they gain 2 abilities with strange symbols in them. It only took a small fragment of the horn to do this, so Oguru fears that he made a big mistake this time. It's pretty clear that that white stag is not a creature he could fight right now. That night, Ogru's level once again exceeds the specified value, and all requirements have been filled, so another evolution becomes available to him. He can now evolve into an extinct species called an Apostle Lord. Ogru decides to just do it, and he receives the true name Yaten Doji. He's also supposed to get some abilities, but the condition for some of them haven't been met. They will only be granted once the conditions are met. On top of that, 8 of Ogru's subordinates are appointed as demon generals. The next morning, everyone is shocked to see Ogru's new evolution. On day 114, Ogru learns that the blacksmith and alchemist are both pregnant. Ogru decides to find a place with water, so the princess tells the girls to just hold on for a bit longer. This is a big deal, but Ogru says that at least he knows what to do this time. A while later, Emery and Spinel have the babies. The human female baby is named Nicola, and the high orc male baby gets named Oniwaka. On day 115, the princess changes into a disguise. They are near the royal capital, so if she doesn't disguise herself, there would be a huge uproar. Ogru instructs the mothers to take a break, and he sends the other girls to gather information at the Adventurers Guild. At the guild, some randoms tell Ogru that he looks really strong, and they ask to spar with him. Fighting them would be too easy for Ogru, so he offers to let them fight the nobles instead. The nobles are shocked, and Ogru even offers to give the adventurers 5 silver plates as a prize for winning. The nobles battle it out with the adventurers, and Ogru can tell that Dami wants to participate. She's only allowed to watch though, and the session ends as the adventurers can't take any more. Genki breaks down in tears after seeing how strong they have become, but the others point out that it's no reason to cry. Their entire goal was to get stronger, and this is just the beginning. Ogru is impressed by them, so he allows them to join Parabellum. Ogru then does a bit of shopping, and he buys a rare magic item that allows someone to print any scenery they see. It sounds pretty complicated, but it's actually just what was called a camera in Ogru's old world. Of course, he put the camera to good use immediately, as he took tons of pictures of his kids. That night, Ogru thinks about how they're only a couple days away from reaching their destination, and he wonders what kind of enemy awaits them there. Also, he has been so busy that he hasn't had enough time to contact the other groups. Bloodsaddle leads group 3, and she explains that Spellsay bought a ton of spell books. Ogru doesn't remember giving them much money, but Spellsay explains that they have been capturing bandits and kidnappers. They take all their money, so they don't have to worry about any travel expenses. Dodomi leads the 5th group, and she is hard at work gathering information. Ogru praises her for a job well done, and reminds her to rest sometime. The 4th group doesn't have a leader, so they argue over everything. Ogru decides that they need a leader, but Habron is shocked to hear that it's her. She tries to object, but Ogru's decision has been made. Ogru prepares to contact the 2nd group, which is led by Ogre Kichi, but he gets a shocking vision. Dami wonders what is wrong, and Ogru says that he is dead in this vision. On day 116, Ogru tells the princess that they will be going a different way. The others know about his vision where he loses his life, and they explain that it must have been a foresight dream. Dami doesn't want to hear any talk of it, but Ogru needs to go to the place in his vision to see if his vision is real. It will take 2 days to get to this location, and they might be a bit late in reaching the royal capital. The princess surprisingly decides to allow the detour and declares that they will head to Maze City. On day 117, Ogru explains that they will reach Maze City in one more day. Everyone enjoys the presence of the children, but the princess points out that one isn't even walking at all. This is because this one is a human, and it usually takes around 1 year to begin walking. Up front, Dami stares at her necklace. Ogru can't believe that she still has it, so Dami points out that it's the necklace that Ogru gave her when they were still goblins. It was just 4 months ago, but the necklace still gives her a lot of nostalgia. She then says that a lot has happened since then. They fought humans as mercenaries, and now they are bodyguards for a human princess. On top of that, Ogru is always evolving and gradually becoming manlier. Dami's disappointed to still just be a Dhampir, but what's worse is that she still doesn't have a baby from the person she loves the most. Ogru assures her that he will stay by her side and says that even if she doesn't have any of his kids, his feelings for her won't change. On day 118, they arrive at Maze City. Ogre Kichi's group should be in the dungeon they find, but they hear arguing coming from inside. Some adventurers run out and tell Ogru to run as well. There is a terrible monster inside called Minotauras, and not even a lord can beat it. Oguru was told before coming to the dungeon that several parties went to exterminate them, but none have returned. Just then, Ogre Kichi and Earthy emerge from the dungeon. They are really big now, and Ogre Kichi points out that Oguru has gotten smaller since the last time they saw each other. These two giants rescue the adventurers and explain the situation to Oguru. In the deepest part of the dungeon, a rare monster called Mind Mirror has appeared. This monster is said to copy the strongest opponent that the person facing it holds dearly in their heart. In Ogre Kichi's case, this was Oguru, so Ogre Kichi got beaten up. However, this caused Ogre Kichi to receive the blessings of the demigod of lightning, and he evolved. He then destroyed the mirror version of Oguru, which explains the vision Oguru had. Ogre Kichi and Earthy are now minotaurs. Oguru is relieved to see that everything is going well, and he decides to stay in Maze City for the night. Just then, Ogre Kichi asks for Oguru to have a match against him. Oguru says that he hasn't changed at all, and he expected him to say that. Moments later, tons of people gather to watch the fight. The princess can't understand why friends would fight each other, so Dami explains it to her. Ever since they were born into this world, they have always wanted power, stronger than even that of their own friends. It's been a month since their last match, but Oguru was impressed to see how much stronger Ogre Kichi has gotten. That isn't all, as his axe and shield have been enhanced as well. Ogre Kichi explains that he has fought a lot of extremely powerful monsters in the dungeon, and he polished his strength and fighting technique. He worked very hard, and it was all for the purpose of becoming strong enough to defeat Oguru. Ogre Kichi explains that winning against Oguru would make them equal, and this would allow them to walk together as true friends. Ogre Kichi declares that it's time to fight, and Oguru tells him to give it all he's got. The two warriors charge at each other, and immense power bursts out as they clash. Oguru can tell that Ogre Kichi's axe is extremely heavy, and determines that no one else would be able to lift it. Oguru is shocked to see that Ogre Kichi is fast too, and he just manages to dodge his next attack. Everyone watches in amazement because the blessings have allowed Ogre Kichi to control fire and lightning simultaneously. Oguru has lightning resistance, but he can't resist fire with his current ability. In terms of control, Ogre Kichi is above him, so Oguru gets really excited to see that these are the results of Ogre Kichi's determination. They charge at each other again, and Oguru tells Ogre Kichi to always be mindful of his surroundings. Oguru gets upset with himself though, since his training habit made him give Ogre Kichi a piece of advice. Oguru knows that Ogre Kichi's current eye structure won't allow him to look at his back, so Oguru attacks him from behind with some water. Ogre Kichi manages to fend it off, and Oguru is shocked when he creates an illusion using his shield. Oguru gets really serious and prepares to use something that he never thought he would have to use against a friend. It's an ability that amplifies all of his abilities. This allows Oguru to overpower Ogre Kichi, and he begins to take control of the fight. He uses an attack called the Dance of 1,000 Spears, but Ogre Kichi engulfs himself in flames. Ogre Kichi takes to the sky, but Oguru points out that he won't be able to dodge freely up there. Oguru is shocked though when Ogre Kichi gets on his shield, and Oguru wonders if that's even allowed. Just then, Ogre Kichi unleashes an incredible amount of power, but Oguru calls him a fool and tells him that he needs to think about his output. Ogre Kichi just keeps releasing power, and all the spectators can only wonder what is happening, as the arena they are fighting in is covered in flames. Ogre Kichi abruptly stops, and Oguru explains that he lost to anger and lost his bearing of power. Ogre Kichi stopped because he realized that he might hurt his nearby friends. Oguru was impressed by the fire and lightning that Ogre Kichi released, but it was very reckless. Oguru is fine because no matter the damage he takes, he can heal fast, but this isn't true for the spectators. Oguru is furious about Ogre Kichi putting everyone in danger, and demands that Ogre Kichi cool his head for once. Ogre Kichi teaches him a lesson and unleashes an incredibly powerful punch. Oguru gets a sense of nostalgia himself as he remembers when he trained Ogre Kichi for the first time. Thanks for watching my recap. Subscribe to the channel to help us make the push to 700,000 subscribers.